Hey, Facebook. All right. We'll wait for some people to jump on board here. Um, I am Bryan Hogue. I am the host of, hey there, Todd. I'm, I'm the host of Chiller Chat, also of Chiller Night Theater. And okay, I see a couple people jumping on here. That's cool. We just got back home. We took Brad out school shopping today, so we just got back like a few minutes ago. I wasn't even sure if I was going to be able to do this. Um, so we'll see how that goes. I just got in, and but what this is, if you've not seen this yet before, this is just me, Bryan Hogue, talking about the chiller programming and about any other topics that may come up throughout the course of the hour. This starts at 8 o'clock. Stream TV uh, shows Chiller Night Theater and Chiller Chat both starting at 9 p.m. So Eastern Standard Time. I guess I have to add that now because we got people over in like Seattle and California who watch the shows as well. So that's kind of neat because the show is playing from essentially coast to coast, from Massachusetts to California and certain places and certain stations. So that's pretty neat. But anyways, what I do I started this up about 3 months ago. Every Saturday night at 8 o'clock, I come on here live on Facebook. I talk about the show, the chiller programming for tonight on Stream TV. If you don't know how to get Stream TV, it's very very simple. I've actually put it in my the comment section above, streammedia.tv. If you go to that website, you can either click and connect to the Roku channel, which is what I do because I live outside of the Oil City area. Or you can watch it simply online. That's another thing you can do because it's streamed. Or another way you can watch it if you live in the Oil City or Cranberry area in Pennsylvania, Venango County, Pennsylvania, that's your local uh, television station on Comcast channel 22. I think it's channel 22. So, ah, all right. Todd says he loves it. Thank you, Todd. Ava gave me a heart. Thank you, Ava. So now tonight's movies, let me bring that up. Tonight's chiller programming at 9 p.m. on Stream TV. That's a streammedia.tv. At 9 o'clock on Chiller Night Theater, Jack Shadow will feature The Werewolf of Washington. Yes, he will. At 11 p.m., our Chiller Chat, which is our talk show, I'll be interviewing. This is a repeat, but I haven't played this for a while. I'll be talking to guest Danny Brickman. Danny is a model and an actress and a dancer and a singer. I mean, she's pretty multi-talented, but she actually was on a show uh, that was filmed in the Pittsburgh area called the Outsiders, and that was I played for a couple seasons, I believe. And when I interviewed her, she was still starring in that show, or not starring, but she was on that show. And at 11:30, after Chiller Chat, is Chiller Night Theater. Jack Shadow will feature Beast from Haunted Cave. It's an old Roger Corman movie, and a good one at that. And at 1:30 a.m., Chiller Chat with guest Stan Gordon. Now here is a more recent episode. I talked to Stan Gordon, who is, if you are, oh, Jason Edwards, miss and love it. Well, good. Well, now you can watch it if you just click on that link above, Jason, with streammedia.tv. You can watch it streamed live from either the online site or the Roku. And we have a Roku TV, or you can get the Roku devices. More and more people are getting those. Um, I love it. We can go watch all kinds of different channels and stuff. So I like Westerns and stuff like that. There's a channel for every genre that you like: horror, science fiction. You know, if you like Westerns like me, you like the old Flash Gordon serials, or, you know, Buster Crab, or just anything you can imagine's on Roku. So that's pretty cool. But anyways, oh, I lost my, here we go, lost my, okay. As I was saying, at 1:30 a.m., I interviewed Stan Gordon. Now, this is a fairly recent interview I did just a couple months ago with Stan. Stan's been featured on, I believe, Ancient Aliens, and what was the other one by the guy with the guy on Ancient Aliens? I can't think of his name. Giorgio, I think, something Toscuco or whatever. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but I know, what was that, Finding Aliens or something? He was on that show. I remember Ancient Aliens, Unsolved Mysteries. Stan's been on a lot of TV shows, and he's been a reoccurring guest on Coast to Coast AM, which is a, as it says, coast to coast radio station, very popular one, I might add, that talks about the same type of things that I'm trying to do with Chiller Chat. You know, the horror, science fiction, paranormal. Most of that one covers the paranormal and the unsolved mysteries and stuff like that. So that's an interesting one, Stan Gordon. I've got a couple of his books too. He was he's very well known for being the investigator of the Kecksburg UFO crash back in 1965 in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. I mentioned this in, I think, my last week's. Well, let me get the Stan here in just a second. Let me finish this up. 2 a.m. We top off the night with Chiller Night Theater. Jack Shadow once again features The Werewolf of Washington. So to commemorate and celebrate werewolves tonight. Tonight is Werewolf Saturday. I've got some of my favorite werewolf movies up here. So, but getting back to Stan Gordon, Stan is he's an investigator who has, this is I'll try and get it so the light's not shining so brightly, but in Kecksburg, let me tell you, in 1965, you've all heard of the Roswell UFO crash in 1947 in Roswell, New Mexico. I'm sure you have. It's been in the news and the tabloids and the papers and on TV countless many times in various formats over the decades since it's happened. Pennsylvania had its own unique incident that happened like that, and this took place back in 1965. Not as well known as the Roswell incident, but 1965 in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, a UFO did crash in the woods in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, and the military, according to witnesses, a lot of witnesses, I might add, like a town of Kecksburg, the townspeople, everybody there, and some of those folks are still alive and will witness to this, and have witnessed to this. They talk about the government coming in and putting the object, which as you see here featured right here on the cover, is it's kind of look like they call it the acorn. They actually have a replica of that they use for Unsolved Mysteries. Now that replica that they used actually sits on a post in Kecksburg. It's like on this, like, I don't know, 20-30 foot pole, and it's up on the pole in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. So that's kind of neat. And the first time I talked to Stan Gordon, I interviewed him in front of that, and that was in our background. So, but anyways, that's what that was. That's what that's all about. He also has well, we're talking about this tonight too. If you stay up late enough to watch the interview, we'll be talking about his books, Really Mysterious Pennsylvania. He talks about UFOs, Bigfoot, and other weird encounters. And then this is one of the more recent ones he has, might be the most recent ones. I just picked this up when I saw him last at the Butler Paranormal Conference in Lindora, Pennsylvania, not too long ago. But Astonishing Encounters, Pennsylvania's Unknown Creatures. And that's another book of Stan Gordon. So interesting stuff. If you have any interest in science fiction, or, well, actually, this isn't science fiction. This is the paranormal or UFO investigation. So if you have any interest in that, you might want to look up Stan Gordon on Google and check out his website, and you'll be able to check out some of his books. Like I said, I actually first heard about him back several years ago, when of all things I was a police officer driving around listening to, I had the radio playing, in the background on the night shift, and I heard him on Coast to Coast as a guest. I picked up a little bit of that interview, and I thought, wow, Kecksburg, that's not too awfully far away from where I was. So I ended up contacting him the next day or the day after that. I think it was the very next day, and asked him if he'd be a guest on my show, which he was. And then I just saw him again not too long ago, a couple months ago. I met up with him again, and that's the interview you'll see tonight. So the first Chiller Chat with Danny Brickman was actually in Pittsburgh. I went down to Pittsburgh and interviewed her as they were finishing up. It was their last day of filming an independent movie by Kiss of Death Productions called Babes in Psycholand. So I talked to her on that day. They just finished, they're wrapped up their filming for that movie. And that's when I interviewed Danny. And I interviewed some other cast members there as well. So I'm going to keep refreshing this over here to see. Last week, I don't know if any of you watched this last week, I couldn't see my comments on here. I had to keep coming up here, and it took me 19 minutes. I was 19 minutes into this before I even knew that anybody was commenting. So that won't get me again. I'll just keep checking this. So, Todd, there we go, Todd. Giorgio Tescosculos. I don't know. I see the name written, but I don't know how to pronounce it. But yeah, that's the guy. I have no idea how to pronounce that, but that's him. If you're watching this, you can see Todd's comment. But you all know who I'm talking about. A guy with a really funky hairdo. Kind of a funny thing about that. He actually. Yeah, of course, he really played that up later, but he got up. He was at a convention one time, and I think he was telling the story about why he has his hair like he does, and I'm trying to remember it the best I can. I'll probably chop the story up, but it had nothing to do with him trying to make a statement or just trying to look all that different to be noticed. Had more to do with he didn't have time to get ready to be at a convention at a certain time or something like that. And so his hair was kind of wild looking, and it just kind of caught on, and that became kind of his thing, his look. And so I guess that led to, obviously he's really plays it up since then, but that's his thing. Had to find it also, Todd says. Yeah, that's a weird. Like I could think I knew his first name was Giorgio something, but I never know how to pronounce that last name. But and I really don't think that guy has any like credentials, other than just being kind of like most of us are, an enthusiast in what he's doing. I'm sure he studies a lot of this stuff on his own. But other than that, like I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you know something else, let me know. But I just heard recently, like, I don't think he has any, like a doctrine in anything, or, archaeology or anything like that. I think he's basically, like I said, like a lot of us, is a fan, an enthusiast in what he's doing. So that may very well be the case. I don't know. But anyways, well, hey, I read the schedule for Chiller Night Theater. Chiller Night Theater is a hosted horror show. It's hosted by Jack Shadow, and we feature the classic and not so classic horror and science fiction movies of yesteryear. So if you like that old stuff, if you like the old memories of growing up, maybe you sat with your family on Saturday night watching these old spooky movies or far out science fiction movies of yesteryear, I think you might enjoy Chiller Night Theater. It has that flavor of the old kind kind of almost like a 50s EC Comics flavor to it too. You know, the old EC Vault of Horror and Tales from the Crypt type of thing. Um, Todd says, if I'm off on Fridays, I binge watch Ancient Aliens. Oh yeah, Ava and I, we love that show. We watch that quite a bit whenever it's on. We love watching that. A lot of interesting things about that. You know, who knows how half this stuff originated or developed? You know, Stonehenge, Easter Island, and the pyramids and all that stuff. I don't know. I mean, they bring up some good points. There may very well be some very earthly explanations for a lot of this stuff, but there might not. And I guess the fact that a lot of this stuff was only between 3,700 years ago to maybe 6,000 years ago, and we have no idea. We can't give a good explanation on how that happened. That's not really that long ago historically, and we have no idea. Most things we have, even millions of years ago, we can figure a lot of things out, but there are certainly some mysteries that we have no idea what's going on. And I kind of like that. Todd says, my first memory was watching them on Chili Billy. Me too, Todd. I love that movie. I love that movie. Yeah. That was my I love that, and I remember watching. Of course, occasionally they do the old Universal movies, and they do, like you said, they played them. It Came from Outer Space, and Creature from the Black Lagoon, and all those. I don't know. Even when they played Ega, or something weird like that. I just loved it. I love the fact that when our family sat around and we got prepared, and Mom would usually make us a snack, a pizza or something. And Teresa, hello! Glad you could join us. Frankie G joined a little bit ago. Hey, Ron Fry joined. Okay, boy, I got a lot of people jumping on here. That's cool. Well, welcome to everybody. We were just talking about Chiller Theater. Todd brought Chiller Theater up, and my memories of that was every Saturday night. My mom would usually make us, some kind of food or snack, a pizza or the popcorn and whatever the case may be. But we were sitting there, and it wasn't just watching the movie; it was watching the host that night introduce the movie, and the intro music to that show for Chiller Theater. Very distinctive sound to that music. It was the music was titled "An Experiment in Terror," and I wish I could use that, but it actually has a copyright to it. I can't use that music. So the music that you're hearing every week on Chiller Night Theater was actually done by my cousin Sean, and you see in the credits, and he wanted it this way. He didn't want his name. He wanted Vulture Prom Night as the name of the entity or the group or the person responsible for making the music. So that's who Vulture Prom Night is, and that's what you hear every Saturday night. He actually came up with that music for this show, for Chiller Night Theater. So anyways, but I was sent a link this week, and I think I'm going to read this, and hopefully this doesn't bump me off. Nope, I still see I'm on live. Okay. Now, I have a list of 25. Hold on, I'm pulling this up here. Okay. I've not read this list yet. I read like the first two. But if you've seen all 25, the top 25 must-see quintessential horror movies. Okay, we are going to look at this list and just see how much of a horror movie fan we all are. Okay, number 1 is Halloween. I'm pretty confident We've all seen Halloween, the John Carpenter movie. So I just heard a thought upstairs. Hope everything's all right. Okay, number two, A Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm going to go through these a little quickly because there's 25 of them. Normally I do a 10 list for the week, but this week we're doing 25. We're in that kind of mood. It's that kind of night, folks. Okay, number three, The Exorcist. I think we've all seen The Exorcist. I met Linda Blair, the girl who played of course, the young girl on the movie at the time. But she seemed like a pretty nice lady. Very short, very short. But anyways, number four, Friday the 13th. Now this is the original Friday the 13th from 1980. Okay, directed by Sean Cunningham. Who was the killer in that movie? Anybody know who the killer was? Sorry, October. Oh, Todd wrote. Now I'm switching back and forth. This is the delay here I'm getting. Night of the what? Would you? I'm trying to read this without my glasses. Should I dare? Triffids. Night of the Triffids. Also. Oh, you mean on Chiller Theater? Okay. And then a new Halloween next. Oh, in October. Okay. Todd says there's a new. That's right. A new Halloween movie in October. The killer in Friday the 13th was. I'll let somebody answer that. Let's see if you know. Anyways, all right, that's an easy one. I'm not even gonna do this. The reason I'm saying that is because when I pull this up, it has the face of Jason, the very, very famous hockey mask. It says Friday the 13th, and there's a picture of Jason. Jason wasn't the killer on Friday the 13th. I'm sure you knew that. You had to have caught that because I asked the question several times. His mom was, played by what? Betsy Palmer. His mom was the killer. And Jason also was not the killer in Friday the 13th Part 5. Remember that? It was like a crazy ambulance driver guy. So a copycat killer. But then Jason came back. Oh, yes, he did in Part 6. Jason Lives. That was a good one. I actually like that movie. That and Halloween 6. Those are the two movies that were Part 6s that actually were pretty entertaining to watch. They weren't masterpieces, but they were entertaining. Okay, number 5 on this list, getting back to this list, The Shining. Okay, all right, good one to have on this list. Number 6, Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs. That was pretty good. The actor in there played by, who was the guy? Glenn Scott, I believe. The FBI profiler guy was Jodie Foster's boss. Was actually based off of real life FBI profiler, legendary profiler, I might add, John Douglas. I have a lot of his books. I read a lot of John Douglas's books. Just an amazing guy with his abilities to profile a crime scene and be very accurate in what he and another guy, I have a lot of his books, another FBI profiler named Roy Hazelwood. It's amazing. You read those books and it's amazing what they are able to come up with just by analyzing the crime scene. Just fantastic. But that's a neat movie. Silence of the Lambs is pretty cool because it deals with that. Not only, the gruesome killers, but going to a serial killer and getting his advice when they went to Hannibal Lecter. And that's what they did. That's what these guys, John Douglas, Roy Hazelwood, and Bob Ressler, who actually coined the phrase, he was another FBI profiler, coined the phrase serial killer. So that's kind of neat. That's a neat movie. Poltergeist, number 7 is Poltergeist. I love the first Poltergeist. I thought that was a great movie. And I take that over the remake just because there's something, maybe it's because I watched that as a little kid and more of a nostalgic thing. But to me, I don't know, it just had more of a look and feel of a horror movie. than all the flash bang of the CGI stuff done today. Number 8 is Carrie, and now that's the 1976 version, the original one. Number 9, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now this is the 1974 original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I thought was a very well done movie. You know, that's another one that kind of ties into the Silence of the Lambs, because a lot of people think that that was based off of a real life incident that occurred in Texas, which it was not. It was actually what the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Psycho have in common is they were both based off of the same serial killer, Ed Gein. And Ed was from, I used to know all this stuff off the top of my head. I don't know, it was Wisconsin or something. I don't know. But Ed Gein, I'm sure you've heard of the name Ed Gein. Well, Ed Gein was a serial killer who is back in like the 50s, I believe, who, you know, at that time it was a very shocking thing where he would you know, kidnap and kill his victims and make furniture, you know, like a lamp out of their, you know, or something, you know, he'd actually use their body parts and wear their skin. And it was strange, as odd as that is, that's where the idea of Leatherface and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre came from. If you watch the first movie, he is kind of like, you know, he's almost like the Psycho character. You know, he's wearing, part of him I think wants to be his mom or grandma or something. I don't know. There was a lot of weird stuff going on in Leatherface's head in that movie. I don't know who writes this stuff, but they actually based it on somebody. You know, you hear that truth is stranger than fiction. In this case, it is. You know, in a lot of ways with Ed Gein, very shocking, disturbing occurrence back in his day. What he did, his killings were just gruesome, thus inspiring the horror movies that we know now. Okay, number 10 on this list is It. All right, and I'm going to check the other page where I can see if anyone's wrote any comments. No, but I am checking. All right, let me make sure. Do a refresh. All right, I think we're all good. Let me hop back over to this other page. All right, It. Did I say It was number 10? No, this is oh, I almost said this was the original one from what was it, 1990? But they're talking about the 2017 It. Okay. All right. I don't know. I suppose either one of the Its would work, you know. But they're referring to the one that just came out. Jaws. Number 11 is Jaws. Now I happen to love the first movie. Jaws is one of my favorites, and so I do like Jaws. I'm glad that's on this list. Is it a horror movie? I don't know. We talked about this before, you know. I think, I mean, horror to me, true horror, I suppose, if we're looking at the true, you know, if you're looking at something paranormal or supernatural, then no. But if you're looking at something like a giant shark or a giant grizzly bear, like in the movie Grizzly from like what 1978, I think, then yeah, it'd be pretty horrifying seeing those things. So we'll leave it on the list. Number 12. It's not my list anyways. But anyways, number 12, Pet Sematary. Watched this just the other night from 1989, Pet Sematary. I think that's a good movie. I like seeing Fred Gwynne in there, the guy who played Herman Munster. I like the movie. Kind of a strange, odd ending to it, but that's okay. And number 13 on the list is Psycho. Now I just mentioned Leatherface and Ed Gein. Well, Anthony Perkins was based off of, or I'm sorry, that was the actor. Norman Bates was based off of Ed Gein. And there was another character, a killer, who tried to be his mother, you know, who it's strange. Who knows what in the world's in their heads, but but Psycho is number 13 on the list. Okay, number 14, Scream. Okay, I know Nate Reagan, he's been on the show a couple times on Chiller Chats. If he's watching, I know he really likes the Scream movies, the Scream franchise. I was not a big. I could watch them. I mean, they were entertaining enough, but I just never connected. I think it's because of this. Um, I I think my time for the slasher movies was when they were happening, like in the 80s, when I was growing up and I was a young teenager and then into my teen years. And I think that's when they most grab at you, you know, those slasher movies like Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers. This one came a decade after that, so I just wasn't quite in that. I wonder if this would have come out in the 80s, if I would have reacted a little differently to it. But then if it came out in the 80s, that probably wouldn't make any sense either, because it was kind of a throwback to the 80s slasher movies, you know, intentionally that way. But anyways, okay, number 15 is Saw. Okay, the 2004 movie that came out, Saw. Jigsaw is the killer. I don't know. What do you guys think of that movie? I thought the first one was good. Okay, let me check back and see if I have any comments. Todd says H.H. Holmes, America's first serial killer. Look it up. I had no idea. Oh, H.H. Holmes was America's first serial killer. Okay, there. You know, I wonder if that's the guy. I did a lot of reading on serial killers back in my day, especially when I was a police officer. You know, I had more of an interest in that type of thing, in watching all the crime shows and reading about crime and trying to figure out what makes people tick. I think I do recall that name coming up. But okay, number 15 on here is Saw. Number 16, Alien. Now that's the first Alien movie from 1979. That was a good one. Any of you throw out the name of a movie if you feel it should be on this what we're doing, the top 25 movies. If you're a true horror film fan, if you're a true horror movie fan, you should have seen these movies. This is what this particular list is saying. So now I'm curious to see if they're going to be getting into any of the Universal or even the Hammer. I got one of the Hammer movies here, Curse of the Werewolf. I haven't seen any of those on the list here. I'm sure we're going to get to that. If anything, they got to have either Frankenstein or Bride of the Frankenstein. They have to, or this isn't much of a list if they don't. The Omen is number 17. Okay, good movie. Okay, I very much enjoyed The Omen, the first one from 1976. At number 18, The Evil Dead. Okay, all right, Bruce Campbell. Remember that from 1981? Okay, and number 19, The Ring. Okay, again, that was a little bit. I saw the movie. It didn't grab at me like maybe like Scream. You know, it was entertaining to watch. I didn't dislike it, but I think it has its own audience. The Ring is number 19. Number 20, of course, Night of the Living Dead. The classic from 1968. This is the 50th year anniversary for Night of the Living Dead. From George A. Romero, of course, filmed just locally, just some parts of it maybe 30 minutes away from me, where I'm at right now in Evans City, and but within an hour's trip away from here, it's Pittsburgh. So I've seen the Evans City Cemetery, where they filmed the opening of Night of the Living Dead. I was with Gary Striner, one of the producers of the movie, and I actually have a Chiller Chat where I interviewed Gary in the cemetery, and then we went to the farmhouse where the old farmhouse was. We didn't see the farmhouse because that was tore down right after the movie. It was in such bad shape when they filmed it. That was actually one of the conditions of using the house, from my understanding, is that they had to, it was going to be tore down right after that. So, and it was in bad shape. Now, number 21 on this list is 21, or 21 on the list is 28 Days Later. Okay, it was from 2002, 28 Days Later. And then the thing is with that movie, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because it was kind of an exciting time in the movies where the zombie thing was starting to come back more and more. The only thing I didn't like about it, like what they did with the remake of Dawn of the Dead, is the fact that these zombies run. They are like in full sprint after you. To me, that doesn't look dead. That looks like a rabid human. You know, something's wrong with that human. But the whole point of a zombie is they are dead. They look dead. They sound dead. You know, well, whatever that's supposed to sound like, you know. But anyways, I see a guy running and running after you full sprint. That's not a zombie to me. Troy, my brother Troy. Oh, Cassandra sends a heart. Thank you, Cassandra. Cassandra, I don't know if you heard, but I was mentioning your movie company, Kiss of Death Production, a little bit ago. We were talking about what the Chiller Chat tonight at 11 is me interviewing Danny and some of the other cast members from Babes in Psycholand. So I did mention that. Troy, my brother Troy, whose birthday was last Saturday. But I'm talking about all these birthdays in August. Well, Troy's was just last Saturday. Japanese Ring original was very good. Yeah, that they now I remember that being on a list a couple of weeks ago. Ringu or something they called it. I didn't see that version of it. I saw the American version of it. And I thought that was good. You know, they do a creepy job, you know, with their horror movies. The ghosts, that thing with the ghosts that they do, that they're so prominent in a lot of the Japanese horror movies. They do a good job, a very good job of setting a creepy atmosphere to everything that they do. At least I think it was the original. It was the first one I saw. Okay. Well, I think you're right. I think you're right, Troy. I think it was. Okay, now flipping back to the other screen. All right, 28 Days Later. Again, entertaining movie, but those aren't zombies in my book. They're just not. If you're dead, you're not going to run in a full sprint. If you're not dead, you're not going to walk around, period. I get that, but still, you know, have some sense of, there should be some rules in there, you know, like a dead person's not going to get up and run. I think that they could walk slowly. They're struggling to move, right? But anyways, it just seems a lot more creepy that way. Number 22 is Hellraiser from 1987. If you've never seen that movie, I believe that's on Netflix right now. And that started the whole Hellraiser movie franchise with Pinhead and all the other demonic entities from that franchise. Number 23 is The Thing. Now, this was the 1982 version that they're talking about here. There was also the original, I believe it was The Thing from Outer Space was the original title. But this was a good movie. Again, John Carpenter. I love John Carpenter movies. He does a fantastic job, and he's used Kurt Russell, who's in this movie. He's used Kurt Russell in several of his movies, like Big Trouble in Little China. That was also a John Carpenter movie. I really enjoy John Carpenter movies. At number 24 on the list, An American Werewolf in London. Okay, from 1981. That was a good one. That was actually we saw that on Netflix a couple months ago, or probably half a year ago by now. But entertaining movie. It was it was a very big movie in special effects at the time. What was it, 1982, I think, or 81? Back then, the effects that they were using were kind of you know, top notch. They hadn't used these kind before, and if they had, they hadn't been as so prominent in movies. You had the what they call the bladder effect. They would make an airtight bladder with a tube attached, you know, and they would pump the air into it, and they would put it underneath the foam latex appliance. We did all this when I was doing this stuff at the Art Institute of Pittsburgh. We had to create these effects ourselves on film, and you know, showing either an arm piece, or I did one where I did a head piece, you know, on my head. We put the cable up behind my ear and into up above my hair. My hairline was a little lower back then, so it was a little easier. But you know, it's kind of a neat effect. But that's what they did with the American Werewolf in London, and then of course, that's what they did. You see that in Michael Jackson's Thriller video too. They used that quite a bit. And the same process of reversing the film and with the hair growing out, you know, pulling the hair in through the prosthetic. And so that was kind of cool. Next, what? Was that it? Did I do 25? Oh, no. Okay, 25. This is the 25th one. Rosemary's Baby from 1968, 50 years ago. Rosemary's Baby. I like that movie. Yeah, that was a good one. I really enjoyed Rosemary's Baby. I think Ava watched that for the first time within the last couple years, and she really enjoyed that one as well as Psycho. She'd never seen Psycho before, so so that's neat. I'm going to flip back over, see if I have any more comments. I do not, but I'm going to hit the refresher. You all know what happened last week. I'm sitting here for the first 19 minutes of the presentation, not even knowing that I couldn't see anybody commenting. So does anybody have, yeah, I tell you what, I don't know why any of the Universal classics, maybe not all of them, maybe not even like Frankenstein Meets a Wolfman or some of the House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, some of the more, you know, franchise feel movies are not on there. That's understandable. They were getting kind of, you know, hokey, you know, but, you know, when it comes to the Wolfman, or I say even the Bride of Frankenstein, the Bride of Frankenstein should be on that list. And what else should be on that list is the Horrors of Dracula, 1958, the Hammer horror film, I think. But anyway, I don't know. What do you guys think? Any other movies you feel should have been on that list? But those are, I'm really surprised that if they're saying that, you know, a horror movie fan should have seen these top 25 movies, that you don't have any of the Universal or the Hammer movies on that list. So I must say I'm voicing my displeasure at that list. Let me know what you think. They can have Jaws on that list, but not the Bride of Frankenstein. Okay, I think that's a little messed up. But until I get a response, Carnival of Souls. Pamela says Carnival of Souls. Yes, that's a good one. Carnival of Souls. I remember you requested that once for a Sleepy Hollow Theater, and we played that for Sleepy Hollow Theater. That's a good movie. Todd says The Creature Walks Among Us. That's a good one. That's a Universal. That should have been on there as well. From the Creature from the Black Lagoon trilogy. You know, The Creature, Revenge of the Creature Walks Among Us. The only thing I didn't, that was a little, you know, by the time they get to the third movie, at least for me, you know, it starts out where the creature gets severely burned, and then they have to surgically, you know, remove some of the gills and the fins and some of the burnt tissue in order for him to be able to breathe. And it's just a little strange because he doesn't look like the creature from the Black Lagoon that we all know and are familiar with. And that movie was, but I don't know. It was kind of neat though. It was still a good movie. I enjoyed it. Any of the Universal monster movies, like Like some are better than others. Like I say, when you get to House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula, they just are just so they're trying so hard just to throw everything in, you know. Um, if you're looking for just big dumb fun when it comes to, you know, watching a monster movie, then sure, you know, why not? But as far as the, you know, like the first Creature from the Black Lagoon, which was going to be called, the working title of that movie was called just Black Lagoon, and the creature was going to look a lot different for that movie. He was just going to be, he didn't even have any gills. He was more of a amphibian look, you know, more of the smooth skin. And it was a female designer who came up with the look that we know today. And that costume was, you know, there were two people, of course, who played the creature for the above water sequences, and then they had a special one for the guy who played him for the underwater sequences. They liked the way he could swim, so he did the underwater stuff, but he wasn't very tall, and so you didn't see him beside people, and you know, or if he was in the same scene, you could only see half of him out from behind the, you know, the weeds and stuff, because he wasn't a very tall guy. But the other guy, oh gosh, what was his name? I met him. I actually met him, and I got his autograph. And for some reason I'm thinking Ben Chapman. I don't think that's it, but he was a tall guy. He was like 6'4", and then by the time they put that costume on, he was like 6'7". You know, by the time they had him all done up as the creature. So that was neat. But the neat thing about, that's kind of neat you bring that up, Todd, because for a lot of the kids growing up in the 50s, that was the original Universal Horrors monster, because the Dracula and Frankenstein and the Wolfman, they didn't see those movies yet. They weren't playing those in the theater very often, so it was very rare that you actually saw those movies at that time. The Creature from the Black Lagoon was, for many of those viewers back then, the very first like Universal Monsters movie monster that they were aware of. And then when they started doing the hosted horror shows in the mid 50s, they started bringing back these movies. You know, the Frankenstein, the werewolves, the science fiction movies, which were now becoming a very big deal. And they were pushing those more and more and phasing out, you know, the monsters. And that's why the creature is more of a science fiction, you know, falls a little bit more on the science fiction side than horror. There's nothing supernatural about them. You know, it's more of a scientific explanation, even though there's no, I don't believe there's any known link between man and fish, you know, back in the Devonian area, or whenever the fossil in the beginning of the movie was supposed to be recovered. But Todd says, oh, the Hammer films. Horror Express is a favorite. Oh yeah, that's definitely a good one. I love watching Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing in that movie together. And I also wish they would have had him in the movie more. But Telly Savalas in that movie is excellent as the Russian his character in there. I'm trying to think of what he was. More like a police officer for that area where they stopped the train and boarded the train. But I thought he did a great job, and I love watching Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee in that movie together. I kind of like the movies where they are not adversaries, but they are talking back and forth, because I think they play so well off of each other. Like in Hammer Horrors or Hammer Films, Sherlock Holmes, The Hound of the Baskervilles, where Peter Cushing played Sherlock Holmes and Christopher Lee plays, can't think of the name of his character, but I just think they do so much better, you know, bouncing off of each other than being adversaries. But that's what they're most famous for, you know. In the Hammer movies, there's Christopher Lee is Dracula, Peter Cushing is, you know, Van Helsing, But then, you know, okay, and then in the Frankenstein movies, Peter Cushing is Dr. Frankenstein, Christopher Lee is the monster. In Hammer's The Mummy, um, Peter Cushing's the archaeologist, Christopher Lee is the mummy due to his, you know, size and everything. But but anyways, yeah, I agree. The Horror Express, that's a good one. That's neat because it's kind of like the snakes on a plane kind of concept. You know, I don't know, it's just true. But you know, you're trapped on that train or that vehicle, you know, plane, train, boat, something, you know, with these these uh, these monsters, this monstrous creature, and then of course at the end they you know, all of them start turning into the monsters. You know, these zombie like creatures, and you know, are starting to come after the passengers. So that's a really good movie. I love that movie, especially the ending. I thought that that was really well done. Very creepy look and feel to it. So we're going to go over the schedule again for oh no, oh no, uh-oh, what are we doing here? I just hit the wrong button. I'm going to oh, okay, I think all is well. All these buttons. Okay, 8:53. Okay, okay. Here is the chiller programming schedule for tonight on Stream TV. Once again, how do you watch Stream TV? I'm going to tell you 3 ways to do it, folks. The first way is if you're in Oil City or the surrounding area that gets Comcast Channel 22, Stream TV is your local television channel. That's how you can do it. That's your local TV station. If you're living outside of the Oil City and the Venango area, viewing area around Oil City and Cranberry, like most of us probably are, you can get it by going simply to www.streammedia.tv. And I have that in my narrative above, my description above of this video. Click on that. That'll take you instantly through the wonders of cyber technology to Stream TV's website. Now, once you're there, you can go down and watch the live streaming portion, okay? And you can watch this live just online. Or you can, if you have a Roku device or a Roku TV, you can click and connect to the Roku channel. And that's what I do where I live. And I watch it streamed that way. Now, I've told you all that to tell you this. On Stream TV at 9 o'clock, in just a few moments, a few minutes here, in about 6 minutes, we're going to see Chiller Night Theater, a hosted horror show called Chiller Night Theater. Jack Shadow will feature The Werewolf of Washington. Then at 11 p.m., Chiller Chat, my talk show where I interview guests about horror, science fiction, the paranormal, mysteries beyond, and all that. I will be talking to guest Danny Brickman, who is in an independent movie. I'm down here. I was down there in Pittsburgh interviewing her for the movie Babes in Psycholand that she had just finished up, an independent picture by Kiss of Death Productions. 11:30, Chiller Night Theater. Jack Shadow features Beast from Haunted Cave. 1:30 a.m. Chiller Chat with guest Stan Gordon. I went over the some of his credentials just when I first started the show out. A nationally known paranormal investigator. He talks a lot about UFOs, Bigfoots, and even the connection between the two in one of his books. But anyways, that's a pretty good one. And then at 2 a.m., Chiller Night Theater, Jack Shadow features The Werewolf of Washington. We top it off with The Werewolf of Washington at 2 a.m. Now, the thing is, if you've never seen or heard any of this before, this is the first time you're hearing any of this, every Saturday night, if you like the old classics, or not so classics, some of those movies, but if you like the old horror and science fiction movies of yesteryear, then you're really going to love Stream TV and watching Chiller Night Theater, and then followed up with Chiller Chat. We played several of the episodes every Saturday night, starting at 9 p.m. and it'll run until about 3:30, 3:45 or so in the morning. There are breaks in between the shows. I haven't heard anybody. I should actually ask ask a poll about that. You know, if you like to see breaks in between the movies. I think it's kind of nice this way because you always have a set schedule, and that's why we're doing it this way. Todd wrote, "I would love it if somebody could revive London After Dark, Lon Chaney's first film, long since gone, in London After Midnight." Um, is the title I know it as, In London After Midnight. But yeah, that was same. We're talking about the same movie. Yeah, the old. He's talking about a movie played by the vampire character in that was played by Lon Chaney Senior, the man of a thousand faces that played the Phantom of the Opera in the old silent version, Phantom of the Opera. He played Quasimodo in the Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's so many movies back then. But yeah, that would be, I would love to see that. That's it, he says. That's it, yeah, in London After Midnight. But yeah, that movie was lost and it's never been found. And I always hear, oh, they found it restored. You know, it's like, that's a clickbait thing because it's never been found. You can find pictures of it online, but yeah, that movie has not been discovered or restored in any way. I'm right with you, Todd. I would love to see that movie. I would love to. But anyways, folks, that is it. I'm going to wrap it up because in 2 minutes you can watch Jack Shadow, you can watch Chiller Night Theater, and then followed up by Chiller Chat. You can watch that all night long and on Stream TV. So thanks for joining me tonight. I'm on here every Saturday night, if at all possible, and at 8 o'clock, just to do this live presentation to kind of remind you and for the awareness of it all. You know, hey folks, we have these really cool shows playing every Saturday night. They're locally made. If you're living in my area, they're locally made, Venango County, Pennsylvania, and you know, in that area anyways. But tune in. Hey, I'm going to sign off now so you can get your pizza, your popcorn, your snacks, and your favorite beverage, and watch Chiller Night Theater. Folks, thank you. Have a good night. Have a good Chiller Night. See you next week.